Good evening. You're watching the news at 6 with me, Sean Russell. The news at 6 is all about the day's biggest developing stories, and we'll be filling in on them over the next half hour. But first, the headlines that we're tracking right now. Sentencing in the 2002 Gulbarg Society massacre case. 11 of the 24 convicts get life in prison. Court terms massacre as darkest day in history of civil society. Kerala continues to be on the boil politically. UP administration enforces prohibitory orders in the town, stops 2 rallies from entering Kerala. Government imposes 20% export duty on sugar in a bid to stem its outflow. Also hopes to the move will stabilize prices in the domestic market. India and Thailand signed 2 agreements in the fields of education and culture. Both sides also talk about strengthening connectivity. And Iraqi forces make a major breakthrough in Fallujah, reclaim the main government compound in the Islamic State held city. Our top story this evening, terming the 2002 Gulbarg Society massacre as the darkest day in the history of civil society. A special court on Friday announced the sentences for all 24 convicts. Of the 24, 11 have been awarded the life term, while 12 were given a 7-year jail sentence. The sentences received mixed reactions from all sides, with the victims' families saying they were dissatisfied with it.
Life imprisonment for 11, 7 years in jail for 12, and a 10-year term for 1 convict. That's the sentence handed out by a special court in Ahmedabad in the Gulbarg Society massacre of 2002. 69 people had died in the incident, including former Congress Lok Sabha MP Ehsan Jafri. While reading out the sentence, Special Court Judge P.B. Desai called the incident the darkest day in the history of civil society. However, he rejected the demand for death sentence for all 24 convicts. Life imprisonment for 11 convicts will be till death. The court also requested the government to not remit the sentence.
ये कहा कि ये 2002 का जो इंसिडेंट था, तो दैट वाज द डार्केस्ट डे इन द सिविल सोसाइटी. एसआईटी ने जो इन्वेस्टिगेशन किया है और जो भी एविडेंस रखा है उनको कोर्ट ने माना, और मानने के बाद 24 लोगों को सजा दी गई. 24 लोगों के सामने ये कोर्ट ने माना कि वो अनलॉफुल असेंबली के मेंबर थे.
ना हमारे लिए कोई हार है, ना हमारे लिए कोई जीत है. अदालत में सिर्फ न्यायतंत्र की जीत होती है. किसी को ये अपनी हार नहीं समझनी चाहिए, किसी को ये जीत नहीं समझनी चाहिए.
This is a very complicated process, a very fair process, where nothing ends at the trial court level. There are 2 levels above, and still probably greater justice will be done by those 2 forums.
However, not everyone is satisfied with the verdict. Ehsan Jafri's widow, Zakia Jafri, said the verdict had brought her to right where she started.
जो उन्होंने सजा दी बिल्कुल गलत दिया है कि आधे को छोड़ दिया है, आधे को सजा दिए, आधे को आजीवन की सजा दिए. मैं तो बाकायदा यही चाहती हूँ कि सबको सजा मिलना चाहिए. फिर से तैयारी करूँगी, फिर कोर्ट के सामने आऊँगी. मेरे लिए ये जद्दोजहद खत्म नहीं हुई है.
Very disappointed in the lesser sentence. We had argued for exemplary life imprisonment for all the accused, all the 24 accused. We had made a strong case that where sections like 436 and 149 are applied, and they are part of a willfully armed mob that was on the attack from 9 a.m. right up to 5 p.m. There is no reason for such leniency in sentence. In that sense, that is disappointing. We will appeal this.
इंसान ने 14 साल जेल काट ली. और क्या बोलूं सर, मैं ना परेशान हो गई कोर्ट कचहरी के धक्के से. और वो हाजिर नहीं थे तो भी उन पे आरोप आ गया है.
तो मेरा भाई निर्दोषी है. हम तो हाई कोर्ट सुप्रीम कोर्ट तक हम लोग लड़ेंगे.
घर में कौन-कौन?
वो भाई कमाने वाला एक ही है, पापा भी नहीं है. 4 बहन और एक ही भाई है. वही घर चलाता है हमारा.
The verdict, meanwhile, also received mixed reactions from the political fraternity.
ये दुर्भाग्य है कि इतने ज़्यादा मात्रा में जहां जान गई है, वो साजिश करने वाले लोग आज उनको सजा तो नहीं मिली, लेकिन रिस्पेक्टेबल पोजीशन पर दिल्ली और गांधीनगर में बैठे हुए हैं।
सारी जो गवाहियां हैं और सारा सब तरह के जो काम हैं जो एजेंसीज के थे उनने कहीं कोताही की है और मैं मानता हूं कि जो और कल्प्रिट, क्योंकि इतनी बड़ी संख्या जो है वो 24 लोग नहीं मार सकते, इसमें और गहराई से जाने की जरूरत है।
The Gulbarg Society massacre on February 28, 2002 shook the nation when a mob attacked the society in the heart of Ahmedabad and killed its residents. The Gulbarg Society massacre was one of the 9 cases of 2002 Gujarat riots probed by the Supreme Court appointed Special Investigation Team. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
To maintain the law and order situation in the politically sensitive Kairana of Uttar Pradesh, the administration in the state stopped 2 political rallies from taking place in the town today. Section 144 was imposed there and political marches of both the BJP and the Samajwadi Party were suspended.
BJP MLA Sangeet Som, along with thousands of supporters, was stopped from entering Kairana on Friday. Som was leading a Nirbhay Yatra from his constituency Sardhana, 22 kilometers away from the town. Prohibitory orders were enforced across Shamli district and the borders of Kairana were sealed to manage the law and order situation. Calling off his week-long march, Som, an accused in the 2013 Muzaffarnagar riots case, gave an ultimatum of 15 days to the UP government to bring back the people who allegedly migrated.
सीनियर अधिकारियों ने रुक के हमें नोटिस दिया और कहा कि विधायक जी यहाँ से आगे धारा 144 लगी है, अगर आप यहाँ से आगे जाते हैं तो लॉ एंड ऑर्डर की प्रॉब्लम हो सकती है। हम भारतीय जनता पार्टी के कार्यकर्ता हैं, हम किसी भी कीमत पर लॉ एंड ऑर्डर की प्रॉब्लम नहीं होने देना चाहते, इसलिए हमने उनकी रिक्वेस्ट को और जो नोटिस दिया उसे रिसीव करते हुए अपनी यात्रा स्थगित की है, लेकिन 15 दिन के अल्टीमेटम के साथ।
The BJP, however, sidelined itself from Som's march.
ये भी सूचना है कि पार्टी के प्रदेश अध्यक्ष जी ने भी उनको यही सलाह दी कि वो ना जाए। मेरी भी सलाह उनको है यही है, हम हैं वहाँ पर जाने की आवश्यकता नहीं है।
एक तो भारतीय जनता पार्टी की ओर से ऐसी कोई यात्रा की घोषणा नहीं है और संगीत जी को आग्रह किया गया कि अभी इसकी जरूरत नहीं है, पहले हम लोग आगे तय करेंगे और जैसा पार्टी का निर्देश होगा उसकी प्रतीक्षा करें।
A second rally led by Samajwadi Party's Atul Pradhan was also stopped some distance from Sardhana town. The state government accused the BJP of destroying the communal atmosphere in Uttar Pradesh ahead of the 2017 assembly polls.
रोटी के लिए गए, कहीं प्लान नहीं किया है। अब चुनाव आ रहा है, इसलिए माहौल बिगाड़ने की कोशिश की जा रही है, लेकिन उस माहौल को हम बिगड़ने नहीं देंगे।
जानबूझकर इस मामले को कलर दे रही है। अब आप यही देख लीजिए, एक तरफ हुकुम सिंह जी कह रहे हैं इसकी कोई आवश्यकता नहीं है, इससे माहौल बिगड़ेगा, दूसरी तरफ संगीत सोम निकाल रहे हैं। बीजेपी के प्रदेश अध्यक्ष चुप हैं, प्रधानमंत्री चुप हैं, गृह मंत्री चुप हैं।
A 5-party delegation that visited Kairana on Thursday said the area was hit by poor law and order, forcing many families to migrate over the years. It also hit out at the BJP for giving a communal angle to the entire issue. A 9-member BJP team had also visited Kairana earlier this week to review the situation in the town. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, a day after the country's current account deficit touched its lowest level in 7 years in the last quarter of 2015-16, the government claims it to be a result of its policies. The March quarter current account deficit narrowed sharply to 0.1% of the GDP. The lower current account deficit is mainly due to contraction in trade deficit.
India's current account has come closer to recording a surplus. Data released by the Reserve Bank of India on Thursday showed that India's current account deficit in the January-March quarter narrowed to $300 million from $7.1 billion in the previous quarter. Current account deficit is the difference between the inflow and outflow of foreign exchange.
Without cutting down on capital expenditure plan or without cutting down on revenue expenditure, this has been achieved. So Indian expenditure on planned or non-planned expenditure has not been cut down at all, but we were able to achieve this. That clearly proves that the direction with which this government is going.
The contraction in current account deficit in the fourth quarter of 2015-16 was primarily on account of lower trade deficit, which stood at $24.8 billion compared to $31.6 billion in the corresponding quarter a year ago. For the full fiscal 2015-16, current account deficit stood at $22.1 billion as against $26.9 billion in 2014-15. Remittances also declined year-on-year and stood at $15.7 billion in the fourth quarter of 2015-16.
Major remittances come from the Middle East, and Middle East makes a lot of money out of the oil. And oil prices having gone down, the people of India, non-resident, which are operating and working in Middle East, their income has also shrunk.
The figures are a stark improvement from 2013, when the current account touched a record gap of 4.8% of GDP.
Decline in current account deficit was largely helped by lower oil prices. However, firming oil prices may nudge up current account deficit in future. Even a possible British vote to exit European Union will make the external environment extremely volatile. Reporting from Delhi with camera person Jitendra, I'm Kriti Mishra for Rajya Sabha Television.
The government has decided to impose a 20% tax on sugar exports to plug domestic prices. In the domestic retail markets, sugar prices have seen an increase of 5 to 7 rupees per kilogram since the April of 2016. The export duty is also expected to stem the outflow of the sweetener.
In a bid to arrest the outward shipment of sugar, the government has imposed export duty on the sweetener. The move comes following a sharp rise in global prices. The Finance Ministry's notification says the move will keep domestic prices of sugar under check and that an export duty of 20% on the export of raw sugar, white or refined sugar will now be applicable. Sugar prices continue to swell on robust demand and tight supply. Dry spells in India and Thailand last year, coupled with excessive rains and late harvest in Brazil, slowed production, even as global prices touched 2.5-year highs. Sugar prices are now at Rs 34 to 35 per kilogram in India. While there is a fear that prices may touch Rs 40 per kg, experts are hopeful of prices stabilizing at Rs 36 once the new crop comes.
If you don't impose this 20% restriction, globally their demand being much higher, they will export sugar from here, and people will have problem of further higher price. So it's very important that government levies this duty.
The country's sugar production is estimated to decline to 25 million tons in 2015-16 as against 28.3 million tons last year. The annual domestic demand is pegged at 26 million tons. India is world's second largest sugar producer after Brazil and exported 1.6 million tons of sugar so far in 2015-16 marketing year from October to September. The government's decision is expected to stem the outflow. Kriti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV.
Some more national news updates now nationwide. 2 militants were killed in a fierce gun battle between security forces and terrorists in Jammu and Kashmir's Sopore area on Friday. The encounter broke out early morning after Army and J&K police launched cordon and search operations in the area. The encounter comes a day after security forces shot dead 4 terrorists during an infiltration raid along the line of control. India's indigenous basic trainer aircraft, the Hindustan Turbo Trainer 40 or HTT-40, made its inaugural flight on Friday. The 2-seater aircraft was flown for about 10 to 15 minutes at the HAL airport in Bengaluru. HTT-40 will be used for the first stage training for all flying cadets of Tier 3 services. The Indian Air Force is expected to procure 7 HTT-40 aircraft. Former Delhi Chief Minister Sheila Dikshit has dismissed allegations of her involvement in a 400 crore rupee scam in the Delhi Jal Board. Terming the allegations as politically motivated, Dikshit said the attack on her by the AAP and BJP was timed to coincide with the buzz that she would be made the Congress is in charge for the Punjab polls. Her comments came a day after Delhi Lieutenant Governor Najib Jung forwarded the fact-finding report in the alleged scam to the anti-corruption branch. Time for us to take a short break. Lots more on the other side. Do stay tuned.
The sacred relics of Buddha were unearthed in Piprava in Uttar Pradesh. Buddhist monks from all over the world visit the National Museum to pay their respects. These charred bone fragments of Buddha are housed in the gold canopy gifted by the royal family of Thailand.
Welcome back. You're watching the news at 6. Now, India and Thailand signed 2 agreements on Friday after delegation-level talks between the two sides. Thailand's Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha is in India on a 3-day visit. He met Prime Minister Narendra Modi earlier. Both sides also spoke about stronger connectivity between the two countries.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Thailand Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha on Friday outlined the two countries' dedication towards improving trade and tourism ties. The two counterparts inked 2 agreements in the field of culture and education. India and Thailand have also agreed to forge a closer partnership in the fields of defense and maritime cooperation. Both PMs also hinted at stronger relations in defense and manufacturing.
Today, Prime Minister and I reviewed the full range of our bilateral engagement, from culture to commerce, from closer contacts between our peoples to deeper connectivity, and from counter-terrorism to defense and security.
Indian government's Act-East policy and Thailand's Look-West policy are very much complementary and compatible. This is history in the making. India is a power in Asia and is increasingly playing an important role politically, economically and socially at the regional and global levels, and I am very much grateful for India's friendship.
In a bid to attract more tourists from Thailand, Modi announced that India will facilitate double-entry e-tourist visas for Thai citizens. He also mentioned a trilateral highway that connects India with Myanmar and Thailand in order to improve connectivity.
I am also happy to announce that to welcome more tourists from Thailand to India and to help them enjoy their visits to Buddhist sites in India, we will soon facilitate double-entry e-tourist visas for citizens of Thailand.
Earlier in the day, Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj also called on Prime Minister Chan-o-cha. The Thai PM was also accorded a ceremonial guard of honor at Rashtrapati Bhavan in the morning. He also visited Mahatma Gandhi's memorial and laid a floral wreath. The Thai PM, who is on a 3-day India visit, will leave for Bodh Gaya before heading back home on Saturday. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
In a major breakthrough in the nearly 4-week-old offensive against the Islamic State, Iraqi forces have reclaimed the main government compound in the Islamic State-held city of Fallujah. Iraqi forces commander has described it as a massive step towards complete victory in the city. The Iraqi forces launched the offensive against the IS on the 30th of May with the backing of Iran-backed Shia militia and international raids. IS used residents of Fallujah as human shields against the army's offensive. On the 1st of June, as many as 100 soldiers were killed when 10 suicide bombers of the IS targeted 2 towns and attacked a convoy of the Iraqi army. Iraqi forces retook several neighborhoods in the south and east, giving them control over close to 50% of the city. Fallujah is the last major city in western Iraq still held by the extremist group, and the operation to retake has been grinding on for several weeks. However, about 50,000 civilians still remain trapped inside Fallujah. Dozens of U.S. diplomats have signed an internal document critical of the government's policy in Syria and have called for military strikes against President Bashar al-Assad's government. This dissent channel cable was signed by 51 mid to high-level State Department officials involved in advising on Syria policy. The officials said the current approach was working against the Syrian opposition and helping Assad stay in power. The document urges for a credible threat of military action against the Assad government. Otherwise, it says Damascus will feel no pressure to negotiate with the rebels. However, the Obama administration says the cable is unlikely to alter the government's current policy on Syria, as the White House remains opposed to deeper U.S. military involvement in the conflict. Syrian President Assad has openly defied the truce. His forces, backed by Iran and Russia, are continuing airstrikes on rebel strongholds. Some more international news now in Global Buzz. China today sent ships in response to a request from Vietnam to help find one of its Coast Guard planes. The plane crashed with 9 personnel aboard while looking for a missing fighter jet and a pilot. Thousands of Vietnamese Coast Guard, border guards, Navy, Air Force and fishermen have also been searching for the aircraft and the second pilot. The UN has reported that the Islamic State is committing genocide against Yazidis in Syria and Iraq. The IS reportedly wants to destroy the ethno-religious group of 400,000 people through sexual slavery and other crimes. The Yazidis are a religious sect whose beliefs combine elements of several ancient Middle Eastern religions. The report is based on interviews with dozens of IS survivors. Police in Venezuela have arrested 400 people after riots broke out over a deepening flood crisis in the struggling South American country. At least 3 people have been killed in the unrest. The oil-rich country is suffering an economic crisis sparked by a plunge in global crude prices over the past 2 years. The US has ruled out mediation between Afghanistan and Pakistan and asked the two countries to work together to de-escalate tensions at the Torkham border crossing. Deadly clashes erupted at the border crossing this week, killing 2 Afghan and 1 Pakistani border guard and wounding 20 on both sides. Brazil's interim president, Michel Temer, has dismissed grave allegations against him as dishonest and reckless. He also made a national address that his government would not be distracted from fiscal reforms aimed at reviving the economy. Temer said it was irresponsible and ridiculous to claim that he sought campaign funds for his party from a graft scheme at a state-run oil company. Time now for all the sports action in Sports Beat. India will take on Australia in their maiden Champions Trophy final in London tonight. Despite losing 4-2 to the reigning world champions in their last league outing, India managed to qualify for the final after a draw between Great Britain and Belgium. Australia topped the league standing with 13 points while India finished second with 7 points. The BCCI has decided to use electronic methods to distribute funds to all state associations in the wake of the arrest of 3 top-ranking officials of the Goa Cricket Association in a fraud case. The decision to switch the payment mode from cheques to online transfer will soon be notified to all associations. The board has also asked all affiliates to get just one account authorized from the bank and statutory authorities to which payments will be credited. England came from behind to beat Wales 2-1 in the Group B encounter of Euro 2016. Jamie Vardy cancelled out Gareth Bale's opener as England stepped up in the second half. Daniel Sturridge then fired a dramatic winner to give his team the first win of the tournament. In another Group B match, Northern Ireland beat Ukraine 2-0 to earn their first win at the European Championship and remain in contention for a place in the last 16. In Group C, Germany were held to a goalless draw by Poland. The United States reached the semi-final of the Copa America after a 2-1 win over Ecuador in a stormy match that saw both sides reduced to 10 men. Clint Dempsey scored his 3rd goal in as many games and set up a second for his teammate Giassi Zardes. Ecuador pulled a goal back in the 74th minute to set up a frantic finale, but the US held on. The US will now face either Argentina or Venezuela in the semi-finals.
In the box, Wood holding, plays it back, Jones up there, the header,
Roger Federer eased into the quarterfinals at Hall with a 6-3-7-5 victory over Tunisia's Malik Jaziri. The 8-time winner went 3 games down in the second set, but rediscovered his rhythm to break back and to take the set and the match. Federer will now meet Belgian David Goffin in the quarterfinals.
6-3-7-5.
That's all from us. Goodbye.